In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build your college list, and I'm also going to be giving you my best tips for knowing which colleges you should apply to. So let's get started. If you are new here, hello, I'm Sophie, and I help teenagers overcome the struggles of high school by giving advice from my own experiences. So if that's something you're interested in, then please consider subscribing down below. So rather than a normal tutorial type video where I'd be giving you step 1, step 2, step 3, on and on and on, I am instead going to be giving you factors to consider when building your college list and explaining why each of them matter. So let's get started with the first one. Location. I decided to start off with this one because it eliminates a lot of options right off the bat. If you're in a situation where you're like, well, I'd really rather not go more than a 2-hour drive away from my house, that's totally fine. But if you are in a different situation where you're like, nah, I can go anywhere, I want to go across the country, I want to get away from my hometown, I want to get out, that's cool too. But you can't just go anywhere, even though you may think, it'd be fine, I can go anywhere. This is not just your education. This is where you're going to be living for the next 4 years at least of your life, so you really want to make a good decision about where you'd actually be really comfortable living in. Selectivity. There are 3 categories in which you can put the schools that you want to apply to under, which are safety schools, target schools, and reach schools. So let's go through each of those. Safety schools are the schools where you're like, alright, I am pretty much guaranteed to get in this school, so if all else fails, if you don't get into anything else, which would suck, that doesn't really happen very often, but if it does, you have that school as a backup option. Target schools are schools that you are pretty on par with all of these statistics that they list out, schools that you mostly want to have on your college list, because you probably won't get into all of your target schools. I know I didn't get into all of my target schools, but it is good to have a lot of them so that if you don't get into one, you'll probably get into another one because you are right on par with all of the admission requirements. And reach schools means schools that you think you're probably not going to get into, just because even if you are on par with everything that they say and they're just really, really selective, that is okay to apply to those even if you are unsure if you'll get in. It's cool to do that, but I'd honestly really try to keep the reach schools to a minimum. With the selectivity also comes the academic environment of all of these schools. So schools that are less selective, that you consider your safety schools, like, yeah, I'll get in definitely, may be more focused in Greek life or in sports and stuff like that. Not that the education isn't good, because obviously it is, you're going to college, right? But it might not be as academically focused, and the students themselves might not be as academically focused as they would be at other schools. And on the other hand, reach schools that maybe kind of feel out of your reach, those environments might be really rigorous and academically focused, and if you feel like you're not up for the rigor of those schools, then I wouldn't really apply to them. So it's really just based on what you like and what you want to have your school focused on. Private versus public. So in this part, I will explain a few key differences between private schools and public schools, with the first being tuition. This is a very key difference, as private schools tend to cost a lot more than public schools, and this is because public schools are partly funded by the government, whereas private schools are not. The second key difference is the student population. Private schools tend to have a lot smaller student population than public schools, so this can either be a good thing for you or a bad thing for you. It's honestly up to you to decide that. And the last key difference between private schools and public schools that I'm going to explain here is that some, but not all, private schools are religiously affiliated. And don't worry, this does not mean that you have to adhere to whatever the religion of the school is affiliated with to go to the school necessarily. It just means that is part of the school. Just do some research on what their policies are on that. And obviously, these are not all of the differences between private colleges and public colleges, but these are the three main ones that I decided to share with you today. But if you think you need to do some more research on that topic, please do. Cost. Unless your parents just have a buttload of money and can afford to send you wherever you want to go, no matter the cost. And I guess if that's you, then you can skip right along to the next part of the video. All right, I think those people are gone. So for the 99.9% of the rest of us, cost is a big factor in your college decision making of where to apply. So this is not just the tuition that shows up when you search up the tuition of the college in Google. There is actually a lot more to the cost of the college, which I'm going to go into right now. Even if the price tag of the school looks higher than some of the other schools you want to apply to, it might actually be balanced out by certain scholarships that the school offers. So I would really look into scholarships and see which ones you're eligible for, which you can apply to that are associated with the school and things like that. That will really help you out in managing how much the school is actually going to cost to go to. Student population. So this can be a pretty big factor in a lot of people's college decisions. And remember, like I said earlier, that private schools often, more often than not, have a smaller student population than most public schools, so that is just something to consider. When I was starting to apply to college, I had no idea about the wide range and variety of student population. Like my friend, for example, she graduated the year before me and she went to Harvey Mudd. Harvey Mudd's student population is only about 900 students, and that may seem like a lot to you depending on where you went to high school, but my high school student population was 2,000 students. So it was just like, what, the college that you're going to has less students than our high school? That's crazy, right? And versus my best friend who's going to UCLA this year, and UCLA has a student population of 46,000 students. Like, the range of different numbers of students is just crazy. So you have to decide what you personally are comfortable with. Diversity. I know not all students will care about this topic, but it is something that definitely factored into my decision, so I thought I would share it here if it is something you would also like to consider when applying to college. If you're wondering how do I find that out, when you look up the colleges, search up the racial demographics of the colleges or gender demographics. There isn't as much sexuality demographics yet for LGBTQIA+ people because those types of data aren't really in yet, but I'm sure in the next few years they will be. And even if there isn't a lot of LGBTQIA+ data out yet, there is still a lot of demographics that you can search up when you look up the colleges that you are considering applying to that you might want to consider. Political atmosphere. This is something, again, that not all students might care about. And if you are concerned about that and you want a student population that is mostly aligned with your political views, then I would definitely look that up as one of the demographics, like I said earlier. And if you don't want that and you want a politically diverse place where you can learn from all different political views, then that is something you'll want to research also, so you can get that experience when you go to your college of choice. You will probably also have to think about if the school is very passionately political. And that might sound a little weird, but it makes more sense when we talk about an example such as UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley is pretty known now and in the past for being very political, holding a lot of rallies, protests, things like that. So if that is a big factor for you, then I would really suggest doing your research on the history of the college and the political environment of the different colleges you are thinking about applying to. And again, just to emphasize, it is all up to you. I am not saying any political environment is better or worse for college. I'm just saying that it is completely your choice, and it is definitely something to consider when deciding where you want to go. Greek life. If you know for a fact you definitely want to be in a fraternity or sorority when you go to college, then you'll want to look up on the college's website, and they should have some information about the percentages of students that are in Greek life and how many fraternities and sororities they have to choose from, so you can decide if that seems like a good enough variety for you, or if it's like, it doesn't seem like Greek life is very big at that school, and you want to think about that when thinking about your decision of where to apply to. So it's all really up to you to decide how important that is. And if you don't care about Greek life at all and you really do not want to be a part of it, then you might also want to do some research and see if the colleges you're thinking about going to have a huge emphasis on Greek life. And if they do, maybe you might want to consider something else, because you might feel like an outsider, and that is a big possibility. But if you're not worried about that, that's totally cool. I'm just saying, if a school has a huge emphasis on Greek life and you're like, nah, then that might not be a place where you really feel like home, and that's okay. Majors and programs. Besides the student life stuff that we've been talking about recently in this video, academics is what you're mainly going into college for, right? So you'll really want to consider whether the colleges that you're looking into applying to have the majors or programs that you want to be in. Even if you don't know the specific program or major that you want to do because you're just starting out and you need time to figure that out, that's totally okay. But if you kind of know a general field, like you want to go into sciences or math, stuff like that, then look into the schools that have good science and math programs. And not just good programs, programs that have a lot of variety of different majors. Because if you don't know yet, then you want a variety so that you're not stuck with something that you don't want to do later on because you didn't know that there was such a lack of majors to choose from within a specific field. And if you do have a better idea of what you want to major in, then look into colleges that have a great program for you. Like UC Davis, for example. UC Davis is really, really well known for their veterinary program. But if you're not really sure what specific path you're going down yet, then that's totally okay. Just look into schools that are really good academically overall. And ultimately, at the end of all of this, just remember, even if this is all overwhelming and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how many things I had to factor into just choosing where to apply, it's totally okay. And that's why you apply to more than one school, right? You apply to multiple schools, not just to see, oh, just in case I don't get into this one. It's so that you can make a decision later on based on all of these factors. So it's okay if you don't know all of these things right now. Just apply to the schools that seem like they fit you best in all of these different categories, and you'll be just fine. And I obviously have gone through this already, so if you have any other questions about the college application process in general, or choosing your college list, or things like that, feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and I will definitely get back to you and we can talk about it. If you want to know more about how I built my own college list, just to see a real life example of what my thought process was like when I was doing this, tune into next Tuesday's video, which will be all about that. And when that video is up, there will be a link right here, so you can just click right on it and go and watch that video. And that was how to build your college list. I really hope this video helped you to kickstart that really exciting time of applying to college. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and tune in to next Tuesday's video about how I built my college list. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!